Welcome back, wrestling fans, to the latest edition of WrestleTalkShow. I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, here to bring you the latest and greatest professional wrestling news, including news, bits, rumors, ratings, overall reviews, uh, information on The Rock, information on details on a WWE corporate meeting held by Chief Financial Officer George Barrios yesterday at the 23rd Annual Roth Growth Stock Conference in California. All this and rants, wrestler releases, and anything and everything wrestling. We plan to cover it. And just a forewarning, the last two episodes were the last one wasn't intentional to be a almost an hour long vidcast, but I found that it's an easier format to, as we go over each news topic or subject of discussion, to get the discussion out of the way and then move right into the next one and do that breakdown of discussion and kind of build hype for the actual segments and rants of the show. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Your wrestling ratings for the week thus far, just starting last week, end of last week into the beginning of this week, including Raw and all your other programs. It might interest the wrestling fan to know that we have two Raws left. The Raw on March 21st and March 28th, and the SmackDown on March 18th and March 25th, which average out to 8 hours of WWE programming, not counting superstars, because as you'll see in the ratings, I don't even think superstars counts superstars. It's just happy to be on some kind of TV network. But that's for your flagship, that's two more Raws to hype up WrestleMania. And given The Rock's phoned in appearance yet again, we'll break that down in a rant all by itself. But here we go. Ratings. Last night's Monday Night Raw, March 14, 2011, drew a 3.6 cable rating with 5,651,000 viewers, if not more. And surprisingly, that was with the appearance of Snookie, who, make no mistake about it, wrestling fans, that ratings boost or non-boost, actually a 3.6, actually shows credit to her being there. As you remember, when The Rock broke out some 2-3 weeks ago, the show scored a 3.9. Then the week before with The Rock, a 3.8. So it kind of shows that the fans are getting used to what The Rock has to offer. His promise not to leave turned out to not be true, because you can do anything via satellite, and they might want to be careful. But I'll get into why momentarily, or I should just say later in the show, as we'll run down things as they happen. Keep in mind there is no particular order here, but I do a run sheet, so it's in somewhat of a particular order. If we didn't already, before I get off track, you got your Raw ratings. We'd like to thank our viewership, our audience, and your viewership. Without you, this would not be possible. The video posted just last night has gotten 29 views already. I urge you that when you're on there to post a comment give it the thumbs up, the like or dislike, and in your comment, it would also help me to enhance the show if you tell me what you like and don't like. I like to hear very informative, but when I see, like, if you look down a couple of shows, you'll see thumbs down with no real explanation. And I was wrong about our video archive. I looked at it tonight to prepare for tonight's show, and we have 90 plus videos. This would, I believe, once this one's posted tonight, which will be after midnight, closer to 1 o'clock, after all the fine tuning's done. You can visit this video and every other video at youtube.com/CWE Company. The format of the website is going to be changed, but we'll do all our plugs in a minute. But the most important, youtube.com/CWE Company. It's an interactive show. You're the wrestling fan. I'm the wrestling fan. Let's let it be heard, because I have no problem calling corporate and letting them hear what you, the fans, have to say. And I tag the hell out of these videos so they intentionally hear it. I'll get into some bonus content that you may or may not want to be privy to in a minute. Kind of a sneak peek, and we'll get right into it. Friday Night SmackDown for March 11th drew a 1.95 rating with 2,845,000 viewers. It scored a 1.95, if I didn't say that right. Not bad, considering, what was it, the week before it scored a 1.7 or 7 something, and that was voted the lowest number. It's good to see it's flirting with 2.0 again, but I still say that Raw and SmackDown can be its own shows. That's all fine and dandy. We're starting to see a push away from the PG, but the CFO explained that in vague detail, but did explain that, and it made sense. But that'll be in the news in just a few moments. TNA Impact, the ratings for this were a little hard to find, and the way they were labeled were a little confusing. Scored a 1.26 with 1,545,000 viewers, and it's up. You would call this, I want to say slightly, but it's actually an increase worth noting for the likes of TNA, considering all they really have is Sting and Jeff Hardy, and we will find out why. I found out just minutes before the show went on the air tonight why that main event match at Victory Road was less than 2 minutes long. It won't be a surprise to you, but I'm interested to see the follow-up and report on it. But like I said, last Thursday's show averaged 1.26 cable rating with 1,545,000 viewers, up from last week's 1.13. And like I said, they can only contribute that when they make sense week to week. It makes you believe that next week, how can they fuck it up? They just will pick up from where they left off. But as we've learned in TNA booking, Eric Bischoff, Dixie Carter, Vince Russo, Hulk Hogan now announced as he's no longer creative, but he's an active member of management. Whether or not this is just for the network angle that they're taking, which, by the way, I'll get into, which is entirely annoying, but to comment, which I haven't on, because this news came out last week, that Hulk Hogan is now officially a member of, I believe you could say, well, I think the management title gives him the umbrella of now he has a say in everything, whereas before he was just in creative meetings and helped with character build-up and storylines. And my laugh there was always, what is he doing to help it when you see the end result? And the fucked up thing, just to get into this part of it for 1 second, is TNA does some stupid things, like the promos with RVD acting like he's high, Scott Steiner acting like he's drunk, Ric Flair just being an idiot, Scott Steiner just being an idiot, something going wrong in a promo. WWE and TNA alike, and WWE does it more because if it's not perfection, it doesn't happen. But they have what's called the reshoot option. They could save money just by reshooting whatever, whether it be their own fault, the way they wrote the promo, or the way the wrestler or wrestlers execute the promos. They have the option of every show, and especially being taped, of going back, editing it out, or just better off have wrestler or wrestlers reshoot the material to make it entertaining. Instead, leave the fan wondering what they just saw is not the impression you want to make. You want the connection of, okay, we saw this promo. We know, just say for example, it's a promo in the beginning for a main event. We saw this promo. Now we understand more about the main event and the heat is built up for the main event. Again, this is just an example. But instead, you'll cut a promo. The promo will be disastrous. And then, still going on the main event analogy, your main event won't make any sense, or they'll change stipulations, or in most cases, when they had reaction to fall back on, why they even bothered with this, considering you want, I know it's off the air, but you want TNA to be the flagship, and reaction to be just that, reaction, where you got it had some good parts, where you got the reaction of the wrestlers after their matches, where the wrestlers thought the feud would go from there, and just hyping up next week's episode. But when you have things that don't make sense, when you already, especially people that are talking about using the story of the network, when your show, maybe this is a good thing that they're using the network, not that it would guilt fans that have already given up on it to watch it, but these are my cries to Spike TV. When you literally have Impact, that's a show that if it does good, it does good in the ratings department that they're used to, nothing past a 2, when years ago they used to score higher than this. Reference my other videos about going back to the drawing board. But you literally have a show that in most cases loses viewers by the hour, has a spike in viewers when the viewers are given the impression that the match and or promo being cut or segment coming up next is going to be better, and then you let them down, like the 311 or the, I just call it the Undertaker ripoff, when nothing really happens. That Impact a couple weeks ago that they called the biggest impact of the year, and nothing happened, and then you're so embarrassed about its outcome that the exclusive link you had on TNAWrestling.com automatically disappears because it was that much of a failure, where the only reference it made was TNA's commentator Taz throwing to it being a big deal at the end as it was happening. It makes it look like you didn't know what you were doing. You inserted hot spot here. It wasn't a hot spot. It was so bad you had to remove it, and you'd rather forget it. Now, word to the wise, wrestling promotions, professional, independent, or otherwise, always make mistakes. But they have an edit bay. They have Spike TV's money. And this has just been my question for Spike and TNA. What would it hurt to go back to your drawing board and figure out who is in your way, who you should be pushing because you have your own homegrown talent, and in regards to the network, Spike, you have shows, again, I know I repeat myself, but you have shows, Spike, speaking to Spike itself, you have shows that score better than this. What is your hard-on, forgive the language, viewer discretion is advised throughout all of these, but what is your hard-on with Spike TV, especially after they dropped Reaction because of the ratings, but Spike TV announces right after that announcement that they want something TNA related to replace it. Well, as long as you have Eric Bischoff producing, remember, he was the producer of Reaction and pushed to get it where it was, even though its placing didn't work, to have an Impact, and then it's so bad where you cut your main event off at the 11 o'clock mark just to hope that the conclusion of your main event will get viewership for Reaction, is a bad precedence. You want your flagship to give the wrestling fans the wrestling, and then that itself, once they're impressed by what they see on your flagship show, to say, hey, this was great. Now let's check out Reaction and how the wrestlers felt about what just happened to, example, RVD and Mr. Anderson. I bet you they're pretty pissed. Let's watch that next. One, because it's wrestling. Two, we're in the mood. We just got done watching Impact, and that could be argued your first catch. You just got done watching Impact, and it was entertaining enough. Let's see what Reaction has to offer. But no, you lose the crowd midpoint, to the point where last month the Knockouts got higher quarter by quarter ratings than the wrestlers did. And then you claim to be saddened by the removal of Reaction. But then again, it'll always boggle the mind, and maybe some more research will get to it. Spike drops Reaction, but then wants another TNA Eric Bischoff produced product to replace it. Wasn't it apparent enough with the lack of... I mean, it had a good run coming out the gate, don't get me wrong, give credit where it's due. And Eric Bischoff, he has more flaws than good, but he did do some revolutionary things for business, especially with Thunder with WCW and all that stuff and a bunch of other notable things. But he's more known for his incompetence now with his buddy Vince Russo, who just sits back there and writes. And I don't think, even when he's writing a swerve that doesn't really belong there, which you see more often than not, I think, we were talking about in past videos, guys keeping their mouth shut and just happy they have a job, but they agree. Like, there are TNA talent that literally agree that they do not understand the direction and why this process has been made so complicated. But then they fire back and say, they do give us our style of wrestling, and it's not as much of a machine as WWE. Well, then your argument would be, maybe you want it to be more. Don't stop copying off of WWE or trying to get their success before you rebuild the success you lost. Don't shoot for the stars yet until you get back what you've lost on your own doing. Work on getting back to where you were and then improving from there. But we'll get to it. And finally, WWE Superstars down a point. But I used to laugh at this show. I've seen it a couple YouTube clips because, again, it's exclusive to certain cable providers. I believe one fan said they get it in the UK and certain areas, but Comcast Cable doesn't cover it. And nowhere locally in regards to me covers it. So if somebody who listens to the show wants to cover this and maybe write a couple columns, I don't know if I put it in the blog, but we are looking for contributors, serious contributors that want to better the show. We're going to co-host with the Wrestling Geniuses, but before we get into all that, we'll have plenty of time in the news for our plugs. But to give you the downfall of ratings, WWE Superstars for weeks has been between a 0.6 and a 0.7, has fallen to a 0.5 viewership rating. And if you look at that, and like I said, when I do this, I understand ratings. I just don't understand like a 1.95 and you got 2,845,000. So it's just a guesstimation when I say this. Using the SmackDown example, SmackDown got a 1.95 with 2,845,000 viewers. So using those two numbers, my only guesstimation for Superstars is that it got 500,000 viewers or better, maybe 1 million if the overall rating coincides with the numbers of viewers, and for every 1 point gains 1 million viewers. I don't know all that yet, and I'll openly admit that. Anybody who wants to help educate me, please don't leave that as a comment. Send it directly to cwecompany@gmail.com, along with any of your wrestling-related questions, comments for the show, questions for the show, topics you want covered, can all be handled there. But 23 minutes later, let's move into your wrestling news. Sad day in TNA and wrestling in general. Not saying they were good talent, because I've sat here for countless videos and told you I cover TNA for the fans. I cover the recaps and the ratings mostly. Most of the time, if there's nothing else on, I'll sit there and watch it. But 90% of the time there is. So I get the pertinent information like the day of the show when I do my run sheet. But as of December 15th, which was yesterday, at 2 p.m., TNA Wrestling announced the release of 3 talents. Daphne, Kayoshi, and the talent known as Miss Tessmacher. They gave her real name or stage name. I believe it was her real name along with what she was called in TNA. But Daphne, Kayoshi, and Miss Tessmacher have been removed from the roster list of TNAWrestling.com. And a segue to that, Daphne, right after the release, I believe by Twitter, because that's how these wrestlers like to do it, confirmed her departure with the company and is quoted as saying, working on a workman's compensation claim in regards to the release. So one assumption leading to another, she got injured and TNA released her, even though, I don't know, my argument, maybe you guys can comment, I've heard of her, like in the other shows and the news bits I pick up, but wouldn't you just let her, instead of taking out a workers' comp claim and spending more of your money, wouldn't you just continue to pay her until she was better? And this maybe, if she was just a theory again, if she was better, it would give you time during her recovery to come up with a different character. If that was the hidden reason to work on it, I just don't, maybe I'm being naive or don't see it yet. I just don't see how an injury automatically leads to a release when you've seen countless wrestlers on every brand you can think of where they get injured. Their injuries are mentioned. They're kept relevant by being mentioned through various shows and possible following her recovery, like when Mr. McMahon was in the hospital during the feud of Stone Cold versus McMahon. Just maybe make a story out of following her recovery, something to put in as a break between matches and or Christy Hemme interviews, which I would be all for. But we'll get into that too. Yeah, just fair warning, guys. You're looking at about an hour's worth of material from here on out. Especially with how I space them. Recently, I've been back to back with them. But how I'm going to space them is get the news for like every 72 hours, over 72 hours, and then like every 3 days, either mid-afternoon or later that night, if a show comes on and ratings come up, every 72 hours, basically giving you another vidcast. That way it's longer, there's more content. The new, like I said, the new video format gives us the option of going as long as we want. I will say jokingly that the upload to YouTube takes long, and the general saving of this video before I upload it takes long because obviously the sizes are bigger. But I just feel we're giving you, the fan, the intelligent, smart, insert whatever adjective you want to use, fan, more material for your viewership. And again, we thank you. But just to finalize on this first news segment here, wrap up this first news segment, Miss Tessmacher was Eric Bischoff's ring accompany, valet, if you will, held the clipboard, wore the suit, played the manager's assistant right. What was wrong with that? I mean, yeah, it was going in a bad direction, but there's no one telling me, and this is coming from a man and a promoter who doesn't like to see any wrestler put out of work. Because any wrestler who wrestles and doesn't have options like John Cena, The Rock, Triple H, Kane, all those guys that go from wrestling to movies, who don't have that option and truly love the business, they wouldn't have, I mean, the paychecks are nice, but when you start out, any independent can agree with me on here, unless you're in a well-established independent, the salaries aren't that great. the pay, well, I call them salaries, but the pay per match isn't all that great. TNA is known for having contracts that if you don't work, you don't get paid. But to conclude this one so we can move on, there was nothing. These are 3 wrestlers that are now jobless that may or may not go to ROH, Shimmer, some sort of independent will find a use for them. And that was my argument in yesterday's video, that most of these people go to the pros thinking that once they've conquered the independents, they need to get to that peak because it will complete their career. But what most of them find, and I reference Daniel Bryan again, is when he got fired for the Benoit choking of the ropes, or removed, I call it temporarily suspended, because it had to be like waking up to a hangover after a night of partying. You wake up and you realize he went through our company, he made our money, and the independents wanted more now than ever. And my argument there is these 3 will find jobs in independents, and the independents and or ROHs, or if they happen to WWE it, these people will find wrestling related jobs that will expose them better than TNA has for any of its non-headliner talent. And I just think I wish them the best of luck. I hope that Daphne works out her workers' comp situation, gets over her injury. I apologize on behalf of the industry that you guys were released. I think it's unfair considering, like I said, it all starts with a love for this business. And when companies drive it to the point where it's a job and you no longer enjoy what you do. Yeah, the fans are still there, but the behind the scenes management and politics make it so much unfun and job related stress, along with any other adjective you want to use that's negative. These guys, I think, I wouldn't be a bit surprised to hear next week they were all signed to independent deals with different independent companies, because their talents will be exposed more, their characters will be exposed more, if not recreated in a way that better fits them, and they'll just get more out of it. It's come to a point in wrestling where getting to the top isn't always the best option. Isn't always the end-all, be-all, as I was saying yesterday about wrestlers getting hurt. But check out yesterday's video for that. Moving on, Jeff Hardy was sent home, I believe Sunday night, right after the pay-per-view. Don't quote me on it. Maybe Monday. Well, it had to be Sunday night into Monday morning. Jeff Hardy sent home from TNA Impact Tapings due to his inability to perform at the company's latest pay-per-view this past Sunday, Victory Road, where I commented on the shortness of the match, and either it was a throw to Sting just to let him retain and hype him up, which it still accomplished that, but it comes back to what I've been saying about Jeff Hardy since we found out, well, his court date's next week, so maybe TNA won't side with him this time, and when he comes out of this one, they're going to say, look, either you clean up legitimately, we don't care that you beat all your charges on a technicality, but we don't want the face of our company, or a person that, even word it this way, because Sting's the face of the champion of the company now. We don't want a main eventer and someone we market to children and the high flyer wrestling fan and the unpredictable wrestling fan. We don't want the face of our company being a drug addict who can't even perform at pay-per-views properly, where we bitch about our buy rates to begin with. My opinion, if it matters to anybody, as a small-time promoter in Pennsylvania, this guy would have been gone until one of two things could have happened. If you're going to keep him because you pretty much know, you knew in advance, like I said in another video, how the outcome of his trial was going to be. You would have known by now if he was going to serve any time, because he probably would have been taken off of TV to finalize his affairs. But instead, you have this incident, and then you have another incident where he just blatantly falls asleep in the back and I believe missed or almost missed his match because of it. Me as the booker, promoter, owner, they would all be in the same room with Jeff in his locker room, out in the hall, in front of the camera, behind the scenes. I'd rather it be exposed. That way your company's seen as a company that's not just continuing to condone this. As long as your legal problems are at bay, you can do what you want. That's not the policy. You either get rid of him and you say, look, Jeff, there's no doubt that you're an incredible athlete still. He's getting up there, but he can still do it. And that's what why the fans that flocked over. And why the fans that like the Jeff Hardy matches. Because Jeff Hardy has set his own bar on the matches he performs. But this is at least the second publicized event where he's incapable or not ready right away for a match, especially pay-per-views that are planned at least a week in advance, if not 3 weeks in advance, and then matches as feuds progress are slowly added to the card. Here would be his options, Jeff. Okay. Me being the owner, booker, all of the above, by the way. Just a theory. Okay, we know you're going through pending legal issues. You have a court date. This is from just go from the very beginning when this all started. Right after he first fell asleep at that taping and or other pay-per-view. We know you believe in recreational drug use. You could do the same thing with RVD, because it should not be marketed as a good thing. It should not be used as an angle for the kid demographic that you're trying to reach. And it would be like this. Jeff, you're going through some legal issues. You're the face of our company. At the time, he was the title holder. The very first time. You're the title holder. First of all, Mr. Hardy, you sitting in a restaurant, being on something that, whether it be prescribed by a doctor or not, you shooting your own home video, uncondoned by TNA, unedited by TNA, referencing how TNA lets you get away with what you're getting away with on said video. If you haven't seen the video, the out of the ring section on WrestleTalkShow.webs.com has this video that I'm talking about that was shot months ago, and he published it like a good thing, even though he was going through a rough patch right up until then. Like, positive details weren't coming out on his court appearance outcome when he did this. So here's the deal, Jeff. You have a recreational drug problem. On top of that, you were outright busted manufacturing and packaging with intent to deliver or distribute. Another felony charge was using a house as a house to as a place of storage for illegal substances. You're faced with all this, Jeff, and you're our world heavyweight champion. We need you to drug test for us nightly, even on tapings. The night of the taping, right before we tape, you're to pass a drug test. If you do not, we will not, since it's taped, we will not be promoting you to let the fans down. We'll even pull, if we make a mistake, we can pull the WWE thing, and if you're saddened, just to use their expression, if you came to see John Cena and are disappointed, please leave now, and TNA will issue a free refund, but please leave the event now. Easy enough. And then it would come the so-called intervention. Both brothers think they're the gods of wrestling. And you put it to them straight. Jeff, and I've already discussed this, Jeff made his own career in his own way, made TNA work for him, and Matt kind of pissed WWE off to the point where they released him, even though he wanted to go to TNA to make an impact, and he draws ratings, even though the ratings will show you that Matt Hardy has done nothing to improve the product. Calling yourself cold-blooded, nicknaming yourself cold-blooded, because the name, in my opinion, the name Matt Hardy hasn't sold and will never sell, because we've seen all your YouTube videos that are all in the family, and you're all about wrestling, and you're all about attacking the PW Torch and news outlets that simply cover the stupid things you do. Phase 2 of my plan would be, Jeff, you're going to get your legal affairs in order. You're going to job to the number one contender tonight so we can appropriately give you the time and you have nothing else to focus on. We will give you I wouldn't say suspend him with pay, because then he learns nothing. He's just suspended. We will give you, say, a 90-day stipend to live off of, so you can complete whatever required classes, get DNA classes, counseling, all that happy stuff, and give it a 90-day window. If he desires more, the doctor can push for more. But we do not, being a professional company and wanting to come off as a professional company and seeing our ratings the way they are, and we market to children, it is not in our best interest to allow you to keep doing this, because one, and most importantly, you're hurting yourself, and as your promoter and employer, we care about you. And second of all, this will give you the time you need to properly get your affairs and yourself in order. Put in a legal stipulation, because you'd have to write up something legally to give him any kind of money while he's suspended. Put in there that if he can work sobriety, comply with the law, and beats his legal obligations to an extent that we feel comfortable, if it's just probation and community service, you don't come back until either one of those are completed, because if you violate, we don't want the excuse to be, oh, it's the roughness of the road and the demand of the company. You don't want to give him any leeway to use you as an excuse. Put in there, in that rehabilitation contract, I'll call it, you have a job when you come back, provided you come back to us as the wrestler and person that we bought you for, as the fans and wrestling look up to you. You falling asleep at shows, you underperforming at shows, coming out to promos with cigarettes in your mouth when your demographic is 8 to, just take this demographic, like I always say, it's a guesstimation. When our 8 to 12-year-olds, the impressionable ones, are watching, and you never know, like I say with the John Cena homophobic jokes, you don't want to implant the impression on either promotion that gay bashing, insulting, hating, drug use, illegal substance use until a certain age, because tobacco is illegal till you're 18 in most states. Basically, we want you to be clean like you were. You are a completely different person. Here's a contract for your 90-day stipend. Here's referrals from doctors and a list of treatment places either near your home or easy enough for you to travel. And even take this as an olive branch to extend your wellness policy. We not only drug test, because we all know the TNA drug test, but if you're on top or they care about you being a future headliner prospect, that the results go nowhere. Like I mentioned before with the steroid thing, but didn't really mention, kind of alluded to it, but didn't. The Chris Benoit steroid thing, he was on top. That's why WWE wanted to keep him there. He was a draw, and it was noted after his death that he failed 3 separate times for steroid use, or illegal substance showed up, as they word it in their testing, because privacy and whatnot. But do not basically put Jeff Hardy in a position where he has to get clean, or his career in professional wrestling, as professionals from TNA, Mr. Hardy, we will have to let you go. We wish you luck in your future endeavors if you do not comply. But here's a contract for the 90 days. And in there, if you flaw in any way, you restart the 90 days. Your pay doesn't, but you will restart the 90 days, go back to the clinic until you're clean. And hell, this one thing alone is a selling point. For your marketability, your safety, and our image as a company who pays you, we want to see Jeff Hardy at his maximum potential. But instead, you let him fall asleep underperform at Victory Road, and let him produce loopy videos and all this. There's an easy fix. Tell him to get clean or get lost. He knows that he's good at what he does. So anyone smart, I'm not saying that drugs don't play tricks on the mind, but with a baby girl and a newly married wife, he has more to live for than just wrestling. And this constant thing of partying is going to come to an end with fatherhood and marriage anyway. So get yourself better to be better for them and for your profession. It's an easy solution and would give better credit to TNA's wellness policy, if any, as we've said before. As long as you're on top, if you test negative, nothing seems to happen. They just advertise the testing, but they advertise the testing, but then keep the results tight-lipped. But then why bother advertising the testing if the testing results in no punishment. But moving along, that's my theory on that, and maybe we'll enlighten that in this segment a little more. Who knows? But moving on in one moment. The Rock, yet again, WWE's own Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who claimed 2 weeks ago, finally The Rock has come back, and I'm never leaving. Now I understand that the way they did it left a lot of fans to read a lot into it, like the rest of us did. But even if he didn't mean it literally, even if it was just to WrestleMania, he missed the trip to Buffalo, New York, which isn't that far away. WWE would have sponsored that, and they were so worried about overexposure now. But now they're at a point where this past Monday, it was another 2-3 weeks in a row of video packages retaliating against John Cena and his plans for WrestleMania. And here's where I'll get into my Rock thing. We all thought it was good. Hold on. The second week into it, right after his debut promo, and indicating that he was the guest host of WrestleMania, every reviewer thought it was good to use Rock in moderation, have most of your things go down at WrestleMania, most of your face-to-face go down at WrestleMania. But when every other week that he's not going to be on it, and I remind you again, there are 2 more Raws and 2 more SmackDowns, so if they forget about the brand split because it's Mania like they've been doing, maybe you'll see him 2 more times, possibly 4 more times, not including the 5th and appearance that actually matters, WrestleMania. But what you do here, and what TNA did with Kevin Nash, even though it wasn't the same thing because Nash wasn't that popular, but Nash could have gone further, but that's for a different video, is you're not showing him face to face, and yes, you're getting a slight rise out of the company, but what you're doing now, instead of overexposing him in person, is every week you see The Rock going back and forth with John Cena. Now I'll openly admit, I'll get to watch it after I save and post this video tonight. I will watch the actual promo he cut. All I've been hearing on the news band all today, and all today up until about 20 minutes before the show, was that it was one of the worst. When he came out of the gate 3 weeks ago, it was one of the best. But you're overexposing him even with video packages, where yes, it's a different crowd at WrestleMania. Fans will still be happy to physically see him and see what or what not he does at WrestleMania. But you're giving us too much of Rock retaliating against John Cena, laying out the groundwork for WrestleMania, when most of it, now let's be honest, laying out the groundwork for Mania wasn't bad. But when it's always comebacks on John Cena, the argument comes back from the last video or 2 is you're making this nothing about The Miz. It's not just you and John Cena. And it falls into the video Youth Movement. It's entitled Youth Movement Hard to See and WrestleMania Feels Off. And then just watch every video leading to this one, and everything will come full circle without having to repeat everything. But for this to be more about John Cena and The Rock is ridiculous. It contradicts your youth initiative, which should be The Miz toe-to-toe with John Cena. And if Rock wants to partner up and do a video package that looks like he's battling it out in a promo amongst the three of them, like the good old days, that's fine and a completely different way of presenting this. But the way you're presenting it now is... One moment. John Cena gets the way you're presenting it now, John Cena gets a title shot against Miz. The Rock and John Cena are battling it out on who's been dedicated more. And you have The Miz left to fend for whatever the writer has left. And basically, Miz can do great on his own. That's what makes him a highlight of this youth movement. And so frustrating that he's the real him, Morrison. And like I said, you can't count Randy Orton and Sheamus because they've already been to the dance, held the title, or both. But make this about, again, I reiterate, John Cena should be hyping this title up like he's never held it before. Every title opportunity for any wrestler, I don't care who it is, John Morrison, Mark Henry, whoever it is, should be hyping it up like it's something that they lost. They've been lost emotionally, physically, however you want to draw the story out, without the title. And come WrestleMania, I'm taking back what's mine. But John Cena would rather battle rap with The Rock, and again, as in other previous videos, shoot gay and slanderous jokes at Alex Riley and Miz. I reiterate again, we're in 2011. We have to watch it because it's a part of the program, because you're already into it and you're wondering what's going to happen next. So the suspense factor either intentionally or accidentally keeps you tied in. Otherwise, I, as a fan, if I knew it was what was coming up, what John Cena's angle was for that promo, I would just mute the TV until the next show, until the next match came on, kind of like I suggested with Snookie, but I think I suggested turning your TV off completely. And you'll find out in a minute that I might have been a tad right about that. But to conclude that one, use that youth initiative that you were talking about, the conference call. Miz should be your primary concern. A year ago, The Miz wasn't seen as a contender, let alone if you told him a year ago, you're going to be the champion and you're going to be up against cutting promos against the likes of John Cena and The Rock. John Cena, he might have believed, but a self-proclaimed icon of him, The Miz said he was, The Rock. You just, whoever's involved, you want the newer guy who happens to have the title to somehow walk away and feel, I am now established because not only am I the champion, but I get the most TV time. My promos are worth watching because they're promos that intensify the upcoming match. It makes me stick out. It makes John Cena stick out as a former champion, so the competition's there. So you get your fans guessing who's going to win and what's The Rock going to do. All in the same theoretical dream in your head, so to speak, for lack of better words, when you're picturing all this. The Miz should be the primary focus, after you utter the words Youth Initiative being showcased at WrestleMania. And we'll get back to that in the rant at the very end. This looks like it's going to be over an hour, folks, so here we go. Moving on to your next topic, Sheamus, the one we were talking about 2 videos ago who got buried, and I'll get into my laughter on this. Sheamus, Monday night, defeats Daniel Bryan to become the United States Champion, and I put next to it, salvage. And here's why I read that. You have Sheamus come in. Let's say I could be off by a couple of months. You have Sheamus come in a year and a half ago. Gets a Brock Lesnar type push where within 6 weeks, I want to say, was either A, the contender, or already had the WWE title. Then you have him, and I hate to go step by step, but it all leads to something. Then you have him take out Triple H with a lead pipe that theoretically, even though it was a torn muscle injury, I believe, but when you're as big as Triple H, you bring them on yourselves. Dude, to Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, John Paul, whatever you call yourself, this is directed at you. You don't need to make yourself look like the action figure that gets sold at Toys R Us. No one wants to see, and I said this in the video yesterday, and I believe the one before it, no one wants to see a weighed down by water weight, over buff wrestler not only come out there in general, but when he does make his return, squashes the entire locker room. And not in a good way, because JBL proved last week that you can kind of shake off whatever's left at WrestleMania and make your thing matter, but do it in a joking way that creates pop from the crowd, and your locker room knows it was just to get you over, and that's not your personal belief. Because Triple H has this thing, like I said in the video, the previous video, where it's becoming a thing where if it's true, which I entirely believe it is, no pun on Kurt Angle here, that Stephanie and Triple H are being groomed by Vince, that Triple H has gotten closer to Vince and is part of, even when he was out, is part of the backstage creative team and works out the details on the creative end behind the scenes. But you do not want a guy to make his comeback after you just got done salvaging what was a hit or miss WrestleMania by getting back The Rock and putting together a couple of matches. You do not want to bury the locker room in the fashion that he did. But where the salvage part comes in, you have Sheamus hit him with a lead pipe. Okay. Sheamus goes on with his career. I forget, somebody can comment if he won the title again after he took Triple H out or not, but whatever is whatever on that one, because they still buried him. Then you have him job to Mark Henry, which I myself didn't see anything wrong with it, because I like Mark Henry. He reminds me of a Big Show who's been there forever, and you know where his loyalties lie. He's a fan of the product. He believes in the show. He believes in the company. and you want more people like that versus the people that I don't get enough exposure, I don't make enough, I should be the star, and that's that, and if you don't like it, I can walk, because 90% of the time, any promotion will look at you and say, we can take the next person that walks through the door, and as long as they have the build, we can turn them into the next you anytime we want. You basically, your own promotion. I would be offended if I were Triple H to coincide with this salvage thing. Not Triple H. I would be insulted if I were Sheamus, because you have him take out a key player like that, which should have put him on, in my opinion, the guy who takes out the bigger guy first to get up that ladder, because it's all about, like Stone Cold quoted years ago, if you're not in this business to be world heavyweight champion or attempt to be, what the hell are you doing here? But he jobs to Mark Henry. Well, he takes out Triple H. That played for a little while, and then they forgot about it because it was just apparent what they were going to do to him. Well, not apparent, but after everything they put into him, you'd think, like, if I were in the back talking with Vince, I'd be like, all right, we had a bunch of guys that we could have taken this direction. We had a pick of guys that we could have taken the direction we took Sheamus in. We took him in that direction. It's not like a Brock Lesnar where we take him in that direction and he leaves us because he says wrestling's not for him. This guy is sticking with us. But we just, a year ago, gave this guy the push of a lifetime, put a title around him, gave him a bigger paycheck every time he had the title, and people loved to hate him, and we had a good thing going, to forget about what he did to Triple H until Triple H returns. At the time, it was an on-air guesstimation, even though it looked like a year just from the magazine interviews Triple H would do, to a returning Evan Bourne where not even 3 minutes into the match, I mean, it was great for Evan Bourne, but even for Evan Bourne's sake, not even 3 minutes into, Evan Bourne returns last week or the week before, and not even 3 minutes into the match, Evan Bourne wins. Okay. Then, to backtrack, because I forgot about one thing, Sheamus, I don't know if this was a writer's brilliant idea, because your story was already destroyed, so to follow it up served no purpose, because Triple H had already announced that, and made clear to Vince apparently behind the scenes, that this was not WWE. WWE ran with the idea, but Triple H requested Undertaker versus Triple H as a comeback match. And it will be a moneymaker. But then you have him beat, and Joe Negron from SmartWrestlingFan.com commented on this last week, that this victory, the way it played out, Sheamus defeats Bryan for a U.S. title, and the way Mr. Negron sees it at SmartWrestlingFan.com is, this is a way to salvage him, where you can have him get to Mania, get his well-deserved spot at Mania after everything, and going back to what I said, you invested all this time, money, and effort and story writing to push Sheamus, just to have him be nowhere and job to everybody in not even matches, I would call them. They were 3 to, being fair here with time frame, 3 to 10 minute breaks from the actual matches that mattered, so you bury the character. Then, to backtrack, before this last thing to wrap it up. You have Sheamus come out and finally confront Triple H after he, in the same Raw where he buried the locker room and said that Undertaker and Triple H is the only thing that matters. So to the viewers that translate, just don't order the pay-per-view until like an hour, until like the beginning of the third hour, because me and Undertaker are the only thing that matters. So between that and Cole and Taker and Miz and Cena, you might as well, we're the only thing that matters, so you might as well either only watch it for our match, buy it for our match, on the 3 hour mark, or if you're a smarter fan, wait till tomorrow or a week from now, save yourself $80 and get the clips of it on YouTube, or if you're even less enticed, wait till it comes out on DVD in 3 weeks and you'll get everything, and you'll have only spent $20, $25 versus, and this isn't, we could cover everything in this new format, but I don't want to hold your attention forever. And I promise I am speeding this along. To you, we bury you, and then we're going to give you the U.S. title, but like Joe Negron said, to actually, I skipped a beat there, I forgot what I was going to say. You can have him win this, but then in the 2 Raws that you have left, have him lose it, or even give him the WrestleMania shot he deserves. You can even go that far with it. Go with that theory. Give him the WrestleMania he deserves. He loses. And then with the trade coming up, but no date specified, trade him to SmackDown. He can bring back his no remorse, no revenge, no mercy character, and for all you know, 6 months from now, he can be your world champion on SmackDown and do wonders for that boring show. It kind of reverts to the Kane and Undertaker thing, where I'm sure before Kane got thrown into this, what I call disrespectful and random 8-man tag 6 months after being the company's world champion, to be booted down, to be thrown into WrestleMania, not put on the card. I call it thrown into, because a former champion should get a match that fits his 10 years plus dedication, plus the storyline we just came off of with him, had him as a champion. But I'm pretty sure up until this Triple H Undertaker thing was announced, Kane thought, or might have thought, or who knows, corporate might have thought, let's not use what was handed to us, Wade Barrett versus Undertaker, so Undertaker can get his revenge for being buried alive. Triple H can get his revenge with Sheamus in a separate match. Like I outlined a couple of different matches. It's with the part of the title is Wrestling Geniuses. I believe it's the second or third video from this one. But it is recent. But he could be doing so much more, and he's not. And you can only blame corporate for that, and the writers for that, And because I'm sure Sheamus, the wrestler, would like to see himself where he was, if not progressing from where he was. They don't, reminder to the promoters, they don't come into this business to just be kept at low level / high mid card status. When you push a guy like this, you push him all the way. When you push him and then throw him away like you did Wade Barrett by pushing him like he was going to be a dominant force on Raw, and then just throwing him into SmackDown to do whatever fills in the 2 hours for SmackDown, it takes away from the integrity of your Nexus angle. It downplays the ability of Wade Barrett, his importance to the company. It makes the storyline and the push seem pointless. But you promoters, TNA, WWE alike, you tell us all, we know nothing. We know what we're doing, but then, like I said before, when you see the finished product, especially in TNA, and recently with the scramble to get WrestleMania hyped up more, when there are matches, 3 matches alone, 1 match being Rock John Cena, that doesn't need to happen at WrestleMania, but can be hyped for 6 months to a year and teased before it actually happens. It just doesn't make sense. It's like, we're going to push you, then we're not going to push you. Then, you know what? Burying you might not have been the best choice, but we're going to tell the fans to forget about everything they've seen over the last 6 months, and we're going to reincarnate you, make you a U.S. champion. And like I said, this works because it gives Sheamus back his credibility. I am hoping he can lose it at any time and still make an impact on SmackDown once the trade goes through, just as long as your writers for SmackDown see Sheamus as a focal point. I mean, that's how you pushed him. So why would you unpush him and then take his character in a direction that, by your own design, wouldn't work? Sheamus doesn't work as a jobber. I'm not saying they're all set to be future champions, but you pushed him as a force to be reckoned with and then forgot about him, and then either to say I'm sorry or because you had nothing else to do, or maybe, here's a shock, I might get struck by lightning, maybe like your Daniel Bryant's, you realized your mistake and are working on fixing it. I just hope for your sake and the sake of Sheamus's professional wrestling career that it's not too late and you can get the reaction and the build and the development out of him that you need to. You already did the fast pace. He's already been the champion. So he's done that. So now a different brand or a slow build to another championship run where he just dominates, but doesn't dominate in a way where week after week Sheamus wins because his opponent's just knocked unconscious without warning. But a slow build, create an atmosphere, and this goes for all matches, create an atmosphere where we want to watch the build and then the conclusion at the pay-per-view. Just a thought. Finishing up with your news, Snookie, as much as I said, and this is my segue before I give you this news bit, 2 nights ago, I have cerebral palsy, so I have to defend this right away, but it is Jersey Shore related. 2 nights ago, I decided to comment. I commented, I believe, on the last published video about Snookie's involvement and what does she offer. But 2 nights ago, I had taken my leg spasm muscle relaxer medication and got to watching some clips and seen the news hype about Snookie, and just kept thinking to myself, TNA tried this, and look at where TNA was. So while in that stupor, I'll call it, even though I made sense, I just repeated myself a lot. I did a 40-minute plus, an over 40-minute rant on why Snookie brings nothing to the table wrestling, entertainment-wise, and serves no purpose, and commented on my ongoing boycott of the Jersey Shore, as it's another thing where, one, it's not like wrestling where father and son can watch it and the son grows up around wrestling and realizes it's staged and it's just for our entertainment. Here you have a person who gets on a prestigious nighttime talk show, believe it was Letterman or the Tonight Show or Jay Leno or one of them, where he asks her basically, it'll be elaborated in that exclusive video. Viewer discretion is advised in that video because I do not hold back on my feelings for Snookie as the quote entertainer that she is, the book writer, the general person, the lack of entertainment she brings to everything she does. And my bigger point on, I see the angle that you're trying to take, similar to TNA, where Jersey Shore is popular. If we have her on here, kind of like having Miss America at WrestleMania, it serves no purpose. It's just that maybe fans that follow Miss USA will venture over. Will they spend $80 just to see, or I'm sorry, $49.95, because they never tell you about the taxes and fees that the cable companies and WWE invoke by the time you get your bill. But to wrap that up real quick, there's a video that's been recorded. I have not published it due to taste reasons, and it does mention wrestling at the end, but it is unwrestling related. It pertains to, like I said, Snookie as an entertainer, a book writer, and my overall blunt and blatant thoughts of her. If you'd like to see it, please comment under this video by saying yes, and when you say yes, specify what you're saying yes to and why, so I can get some of the feedback. So on the next video we do, I can give credit to those who commented, because fan comments, interaction is what make this show. Fan interaction. And if you want to interact more, you can visit WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. Visit our interactive forum, and you can put your own thoughts in there. I'll read it. And this is just pertaining to Snookie. Basically, just wrap it up too, because I commented on Snookie and JWoww. Basically, either direct comment here, cwecompany@gmail.com, or on the forums at WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. Tell me what you think about Jersey Shore, Snookie, JWoww. It's their integration into pro wrestling and entertainment as a whole. And if you guys want to see it just in a nutshell, let me hear that you want to see it, because I will not, because it is, I would rate it TVMA, and it is not wrestling, it is not based on the wrestling format that we use, so it is exclusive content. If you want me to upload it, let me know. Post a comment, send an email, friend us on Facebook and Twitter, both at CWE Company. You can comment in direct message on Facebook. Please do it direct message, unless I pose the question. I believe I've already posed a question there, so you can put it right on my wall, or direct message if you have thoughts that you don't want publicized to the rest of my following, and we'll go from there. By the end of, what's today? Today's Tuesday. By Friday, I will tally up the yays and nays, reasons why, work it into a new video. If it passes by you, the fans, because that's what this is all about, an interactive wrestling show for the fans. If it passes by you, it will get posted by Saturday afternoon. Hell, if I read it early enough, Friday, it'll either be posted late Friday or by the end of business on, or I shouldn't say the end of business. By the end of the day, Saturday, this coming Saturday, by 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it will be posted and available at youtube.com/CWE Company. Happening right now, but I believe it already ended, is Smart Wrestling Fans 3-hour podcast. They start every Tuesday night at smartwrestlingfan.com. If you subscribe to their RSS feed like I do, you can do other things and catch up with it the next day, so you have wrestling content to listen to all day. Visit their forums, interact with what they've got going on, join the Stickcam audience at stickcam.com/Joe Negron every Tuesday night. You can sit in the audience, so to speak, while the live show's going on. It's 1:10 in the morning now, technically Wednesday morning, but because of the time change effective yesterday, I don't know if the show's still running. It normally runs from 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, to midnight, 12:30 Eastern. So it's a 3 to 3.5 hour show. Definitely over 3 hours, because they're covering Victory Road tonight. So even though they didn't even have big things to say about it, be sure to visit them. Our friends at the PW Torch, Wade Keller and James Codwell at pwtorch.com. They have a VIP section with multiple hours of bonus content, exclusive Torch Talk, what they call their interviews, exclusive Torch Talk interviews with The Rock, Paul Heyman, Stone Cold Steve Austin, creative members of both TNA and WWE, that and much more, as well as a lot of interactive stuff. Going back to Smart Wrestling Fan, they have an Amazon wish list that if you can't support the show, buy something in their wish list that is usually wrestling and or part of their sister company, smartvideogamefan.com, which is usually a video game or a console or a poster or something, and they use those funds. I know for a fact that those funds collected directly go to the production of both Smart Wrestling Fan, and if you're an avid video game player, the same show, but it would be 6 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern here. Do the time difference as you see fit. But they do 2 shows Tuesday night. 6 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern is Smart Wrestling, smartvideogamefan.com. And 9 to midnight 12:30 is smartwrestlingfan.com every Tuesday. And the PW Torch has a lineup of, on Monday nights, they're on the hour before Raw, which is 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, and they lead you right into Monday Night Raw. They give you predictions, recaps, news, everything we do. And then for the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, they're available at from 5. The live cast itself is 5:30 Eastern to 6:30 Eastern, Tuesday through Friday. But a lot of good stuff. Another good one to check out is ProWrestling.net. I suggest subscribing to the RSS feed where it's right up on your toolbar, because you can click it and immediately get a list of news stories. And I just like the feature because you can randomly pick what news stories intrigue you and what don't. RSS feeds on all of these allow you to listen to the archive material, and or like tonight's show for Smart Wrestling Fan. If you already missed it, you'll be able to catch it. If he doesn't upload it, if Mr. Negron doesn't upload it tonight, it's usually available before noon, Wednesday afternoon, Eastern time based. And just to plug us a little bit, again, I'm an independent wrestling promoter for the state of Pennsylvania, have been since 2005. I'm in this for the wrestling and how wrestling should be, and my sole purpose of these videos is to just give you the point of view on how all this can make sense if you're willing to try. We have a website, WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. You can click on the forums, give us your opinion, interact with the show. You can click the PayPal button where the funds get directly sent to me, which will then be, you'll get a space on the website. Access will email you directly exclusive content every week, if not every day. Longer vidcasts like this. Our section in videos called Out of the Ring, we plan on updating more, so you'd be able to get to see them first, whether it be the monthly donation of $2.50 or a one-time donation of anything and everything is welcome, as little or as much as you can donate. If you can't donate, I always say, refer a friend. It's the next best thing to financial support, because referring a friend helps us, our audience, grow, and the chain reaction you can pretty much figure out for yourself. Now that I've plugged the Snookie exclusive content and you're pondering whether or not you want to see it or not, please, again, let me know, because it'll go into my private archive and will not get published because of the nature. If it's something you want to listen to, find a way. I've given all the things, cwecompany@gmail.com, facebook.com, and Twitter/cwecompany. Find a way to let me know. And if you could, a short sentence why, and comments for the show can be left there. Anything and everything for the show, please comment. It makes us stronger. It allows me to make these shows, as you can see, as we're going on an hour and 33 minutes. It allows me to give you more content, newer programs, thanks to ArcSoft Webcam Companion. For the last, I want to say, month and a half, we've been able to do different things, give you longer longer shows, better content, better broadcasting, and just have fun with it. Because in the end, that's what it's all about. You want your wrestling to be fun, entertaining, edgy, and give you a reason to hang on. But my segue, after that 20-minute plug on everything, I figure I'd get the bigger ones out of the way. That way when we do ours at the end, it wouldn't be so bad. But our segue for the Snookie thing was, last night, Snookie weasels her way into a match. It'll be Snookie, Trish Stratus, and John Morrison versus the team of Lay Cool and Dolph Ziggler. Now, my informants tell me, and this isn't 100%, and I don't really buy it, because I haven't confirmed it. I will confirm it tomorrow. I just figured I'd put it out there. Or I'll confirm it tonight and then add a note when the video posts. Snookie, Trish Stratus, and John Morrison versus Lay Cool and Ziggler versus is told to me will happen at WrestleMania. But I have an argument with that. But we'll get into that when the actual rant comes up. Let's get the rest of the news out of the way, because I've talked way too long. Didn't mean to. But like I said in the beginning of the show, I think getting on to the rants while they're hot with whatever news bit I'm going over gets it out of the way faster, and it's not a bunch of repetitiveness when it comes to the segment, even though that seems to happen either way, because this business at times, I'm sure you'll agree with me, annoys me. And it's not singling out TNA or WWE, ROH, or any of them, but some of the things this business does make no sense. But we'll get into Snookie being in her own match and the possibility of it being at WrestleMania with the likes of Trish Stratus, not in a bad way, just Snookie with an actual wrestler, Trish Stratus, John Morrison, Lay Cool are just fillers in my opinion, and Dolph Ziggler, so much for having to work for that opportunity, especially if it happens at WrestleMania. Hi, Snookie, you're on Jersey Shore. Here's a ticket and something for you to do at WrestleMania. Congratulations. Oh, you mean the guy behind you? Oh, that's Caval. We're going to send him home because we had to put you in WrestleMania. Just a theoretical joke. Oh, Caval, that's that guy behind you. We sent him home so we could make room for you in a match that you've been so close to the vest with wrestling that we know you deserve your shot, just never got it. It's like saying to the real wrestlers, thanks, we know you can wrestle, but we'd rather the porn star take your spot instead because she can show off more. You just have moves. But again, bigger rant in the rant section coming up within minutes, and that's not a tease, within minutes, because the rest of this we're going to breeze through. It's been announced the winner of NXT Season 5, his prize is not, you know how they give that winner gets a prize. Caval got an IC title shot. This last one, I believe, was tag team title shot, etc., etc. No, folks, they've done away with that. The winner of NXT Season 5, his or her prize will be an automatic entry into Season 6. Now, real quick, here's my only disagreement with that. If that's your prize, never mind the fact that it should be for a title or some kind of recognition, or even we'll give you an opportunity live on Monday Night Raw or something like that. No, none of that. None of that. The winner of Season 5 automatically goes into Season 6. And again, guys, comment if you disagree with anything. It provides content for the show, and I love the back and forth. But here's what this tells me. Winner of Season 5 goes into Season 6. First of all, NXT is a WWE-based program. It's so not cared for that it's forced to the internet. And secondly, if you're the wrestler or wrestlers, it'll start with, I don't watch NXT, I just get the pertinent coverage because it's a WWE.com based show, and that just tells me everything I need to hear. Congratulations, you've won Season 5. You're now going to Season 6. This would tell me as the winner, okay, I've busted my ass, done everything, and it's NXT, so you can't tell me I'm lying here. Done every obscure, non-wrestling related bit they wanted me to do. And they think so low of my ability, even after going through their what is supposed to be seen as their developmental process, their on-air developmental process after FCW. We don't believe in your ability so much that instead of winning a title shot for your hard work on Season 5, we feel we need to bring you right into Season 6 to give you more training, and hopefully by Season 7, God forbid this never happens. I was praying to every god that I could think of that it wouldn't even get to Season 6. You'd think that being forced to your own website to air the show would be a hint, but I would be insulted as the up-and-coming wrestler. Again, I hate to keep referring to it. Your work in FCW gives you the pull, or the way WWE works, gives you the pull for Raw, SmackDown, or anything else they want you to do, but that's normally the goal. You either call in you usually end up getting on one of the major brands, and that's when you get to call in your title shot, or your favor, or whatever, or Snookie gives you a lap dance. They usually have something that entices you. But to basically tell the up-and-coming wrestler, you won Season 5, congratulations. Get ready for more preparation to almost be a wrestler and good enough for the ranks of live national TV, that we need to put you in Season 6. Hope you're not mad. We know you're dedicated to the cause now more than ever. You're going to be an Impact on Season 6. And here's my only joke in it. If the same guy wins 5 and 6, does he get 2 title shots of his choosing? I think that would be fair, because you've already basically insulted the guy that you told months ago, guy or girls that you told months ago when you took them from FCW and put them on NXT, that you believed they had a future. You basically, by putting them on Season 6 as their reward, have screwed them. You're just delaying them a wrestling career because you can. There doesn't seem to be any real reasoning for this, but I think if you're going to play it like this, the guy or girl who wins should turn around and say, all right, and it could be a gimmick. All right, I worked through FCW. I worked my ass off to prove myself I was good enough for WWE programming and not just their weekend FCW showcased house shows. I've proven myself for 2 seasons. Just I don't remember offhand how long each season is, but let's just guesstimate. I've worked my ass off for 8 to 12 weeks, won both, stand here before you now, the winner of both, and I demand an intercontinental title. You could take any belt. Example, I demand a U.S. title shot right now, or make the prize number 1 contendership for the world title. That could be one of 2. I demand my number 1 contender shot right now as prize 1, although that would cancel itself out. Stick with the original one. I demand a U.S. title shot now for my prize on season 5. I deserved it. I've proven to you that I obviously have the ability, or I wouldn't be standing here. And after I win the U.S. title shot, I'm going to wait a week. And then on Monday Night Raw, you're going to give me my national TV exposure as I announce that I am challenging the current world champion of whatever brand you stick me on, and make that your third and all around demand in regards to prize. You've strung me along in FCW. You've built me up as a wrestler. I was already a wrestler in FCW. I learned the WWE style. You lured me into that. Played me along for season 6. I showed you up and beat both seasons. Now I want a low-level title shot to get my name established. Give me a week or 2 on Raw to cut promos. My second promo on the second week of a Raw of my choosing, or whatever show they see it'll work better, I'm going to call out the World Heavyweight Champion of whatever brand I want to go after at the next pay-per-view. Whether it be a pay-per-view you don't see me fitting into or not. I've done all this work to be a pro wrestler, and now I'm demanding that World Wrestling Entertainment treat me as an up-and-coming pro wrestler. No dark match, no jobber match where I'm given the build-up for the whole night, and then Monday Night Raw, I get the second match to the last where I have to job 5 minutes into what would have been a good match if you'd given me a longer time frame. This is what I want for my dedication to you. Time to pay all debts forward. Give me something to show that you appreciate how hard I've worked to get to where I am. And that's all I'm going to say on that. As the details emerge, it might just be a rumor, but this winner of Season 5 gets automatically into Season 6. Sounds like something WWE would do. Possibly, tentatively, it could change. Part of me also wants to think they did this because they have Season 6 approaching faster than they know how to script it or what to give out as incentive, even though they've done it already. I mean, when you just look at the dedication that's put into it. I mean, Caval won 1 match before having no choice in my opinion. But to take SmackDown, and he hyped it up a little bit for SmackDown, because there are fans of Cavill, low-key, whatever you see him as. He won one non-title match, had to call in his chips, got his Intercontinental title match, and then got beaten by Dolph Ziggler. And then you wonder why this guy feels more appreciated and better utilized in the independents. Because the independents know, they see it day in and day out, because they actually utilize their talent instead of just using them. Remember, WWE, two different words spelled completely different. Utilize and using. So no wonder they run back to independence and Daniel Bryan, before he could come back after his termination / please come back, wouldn't come back until he finished out his committed independent days. The independents have more passion. The WWE fans and TNA fans know what's coming. There is no predictability. Now, you can blame part of that on spoilers. You can blame 90% of that because your real fan will, like me, unless it's important to news, and even then I ignore things that I want to see. Your fans want to see predictability. They don't want to see an outcome where you know next week that person will be back. When they fired Dolph Ziggler, they had a gold mine in Dolph. So you knew it was just for dramatic effect, so he could stay kayfabe and work the Twitter. He must have needed some time off. Not saying it was a bad move, just saying that when the wrestling fan is not surprised but knows the next step, kind of like how you hype The Miz and John Cena, whereas there is no title hype from John Cena. The fans are just supposed to go along with, okay, he won the title shot, right? So now it's just logical step. We're not telling you about it, but I'm just going to go after the title. And that would be fine. If, again, you hyped up your title, but stop using your people and start utilizing them. Just a thought. Due to technical difficulties, in a moment we're going to have to move the camera for a better angle, and our battery is dying. I didn't realize, well, I realized I went that long, but I didn't know that the battery would shit the bed that fast. As a matter of fact, give me one moment and I'm still with you. Up next, let me make sure I didn't forget nothing. Just to show you what's next. Up next, the presentation given earlier today by CFO George Barraras at the 23rd Annual Roth Growth Stock Conference in California. A lot of interesting things brought to the table on that one. Give us 1 second and the movement will stop, and we'll get right back to the wrestling material you know and love. Stick with me here, folks. Again, stick with me 1 second, folks. I will be right back. All of 2 seconds. And as promised, we are back. Let me just take my seat on the throne here. And we are back in your face. I hope not too close in your face, because I don't like to get on anybody's bad side. If there was more peace in the world, maybe we'd be a better civilization. A smile, a hi to a stranger never hurts. Just my words of wisdom for the day, if you will. But without further ado, yes, this morning, I believe, it wasn't timestamped, but it was breaking news. WWE Chief Financial Officer George Boraras did a short presentation on key areas of interest, including the show's the product's PG rating, why it has a films division, dividend payouts, and and updates on the WWE TV network, which is fun for all. So here we go on that one. Again, I'm sorry for the last minute confuzzle. Like I said, I didn't know the battery would die that quick. So much for top of the line and latest technology. I'd like to congratulate the viewers. We're approaching the 2-hour mark, and I did not intend this, but I promise you within the next 20 minutes, possibly less, but there was a lot to get into, including this meeting here. So let's get right into that without further ado. Again, WWE Chief Financial Officer gives a short presentation at the 23rd annual Roth Growth Stock Conference in California earlier today. And like I said, he comments on the product's PG rating, the reason why it does films and maintains WWE studios, why it sees it as a payout was interesting, so a payoff, so you'll find that interesting. And insight very vague on the dividend policy payouts, considering that was recent news a couple months back, and in a video a couple months back. I believe it was the video was shareholders want questions answered or something about dividend payouts, but it's all in there, guys. An entire archive for you to catch up. And again, finally, updates on the TV network and their goals for that. So let's get right into that, as we're 3 minutes short of the 2-hour marker. Again, George Barrios hosted it, and he cites, going in, I believe it's order in which I just described. His comments on the PG rating and why it's PG is that the company's outlook is that with it rated PG, it gets kids into the brand and the product early, and they stick with the brand, in theory. And Barrios goes on to comment that they grow with us and stay with us. Even if they leave the brand, they come back for certain things, or the children that the said PG rating ends up having comes to the brand because the previous generation was grown up on professional wrestling. I'm sure all of us can relate to at least one family member. At least, well, except for me, my family always thought, and this is just a little candidness, my family always thought me starting my own wrestling business was a pipe dream. They always thought I was looking for overnight success, and anyone who knows this business knows you don't have that. But I'll get into that at the end because that's not what you're here for. The PG gets them into the brand at an early age. They grow with us and stay with us, and future generations get turned on to the product by the generation we're influencing now, in a summary. To be honest with you, it wasn't even really a summary because this was literally a conference that was covered in about a paragraph or less, including answers to all the topics I just brought up. In response to their dividend policy, and for those of you who didn't get the news story or follow the news story, WWE has been losing money, although it's been making money because it has more than one business interest, but areas such as pay-per-view outside of the court, if you listen to the conference call or listen to my coverage of the conference call, just to give you a feel for what I'm about to read to you, is that outside of the core pay-per-views, WWE lost money in the last quarter of 2010. The films division gained $7 million, which was the mistake in the video I posted for it on the conference call, is exactly what I thought they would do. Now don't get me wrong, $7 million gain from a $0.6 million revenue stream the fourth quarter of 2009. Don't get me wrong, $7 million is a nice chunk of change. So, but my fear is that they would take it to an extreme where you would just kill the wrestling fan with it, because call it the expression trying to get blood from a stone. They would see the minute success and how it didn't level the books, but it made the books look better. But areas such as pay-per-view, live events, and WWE shops, even over the holidays when they expected their spike, seen significant loss, including WWE Magazine. And my argument with that was, with the magazine in general, I don't subscribe to it. I subscribe, basically, if you have an internet connection, you don't really need to. You can get everything you need wrestling right on your internet, right on the internet computer. Same thing with newspaper subscriptions. Why buy a newspaper when nowadays you can hop online to your phone, and most times in your phone's automatic browser default, it has a link that connects you to quote unquote the news of the day or top headlines. So my argument with that was always, why buy the magazine when it's just candid interviews with the wrestlers in character, so you already know what to expect? It's not going to be like it would. I think I would buy it if it were different, if it was like a real insight into the character Triple H and what Triple H does to enhance his character on the mic. And if it was interesting, behind the scenes, intricate, how we do it kind of stuff, maybe it would be a different story, but it wasn't. But they lost they've been losing major money in the last 2 years. They've just started to make money in Mexico, which they're happy about, which endorses the recent hire as of last week of Mystico. I just hope that with the WWE style of wrestling that they beat into everybody, even the ones that come already knowing how to do it. The WWE style of wrestling and the do's and don'ts, will they let Mystico be the wrestler that he is? And after making such a big stink at the press conference in Mexico City in front of his fan base, young and old, they haven't really, my only assumption is they haven't really, if they watch it, but they've been so limited, and that's why WWE takes pride in making money in Mexico, but it's only because the content's been limited. Kind of like yesterday's announcement with Canada extending the deal with WWE for television. But Canada, this time at the table, demanded that we'll continue to air it, and this will be another place you can air product, but you have to give us more product to air. I mean, Dishban, a co-host of Smart Wrestling Fan, dare say, co-host and comic relief of SmartWrestlingFan.com, says that in his area, which is Australia, they get a 1 hour WWE sponsored recap show that doesn't even really recap. It's just something that WWE has on the air. And it goes back to what I told a fan in one of the other, I think he was commenting on why bring back Tough Enough. Yeah, that's what it was. The commenter made the comment of when I announced that WWE was bringing back Tough Enough in Divas Search, which, by the way, Divas Search will happen after WrestleMania. That will begin. Why bring it back? Wasn't NXT enough? And I argued that the Tough Enough platform will work a second time around or a third time, whatever time they're into at this point, if they treat the format right. If it's legitimately a show where you get to see, where it just happens to star Booker T, Trish Stratus, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and one other or two others I'm forgetting, if it showcases them to hype the show and only the show, and you get to see them physically train the wrestlers and turn them from nobody wannabe wrestlers to ready for, dare say, even though you know the prize will probably, it'll be a contract, but you automatically have to assume that even after Tough Enough, they'll have to do a run through FCW, learn the style, and do all that before they even get a proposal to be placed on a brand or an order of, we think you'd fit better here versus on SmackDown. So Barreras comments that in regards to that, the WWE losing money last 2 years, it was scrutinized. I got off subject there for a minute. It was scrutinized because even though it's losing money, or has been, or is, probably still is, losing money for the last 2 years, investors and financial analysts, a company called Y Charts that reviews companies and company dividend policies, said, its own shareholders said this, by the way. So here's the clear-cut message, how I always send direct messages. But this is pretty sad when your own shareholders have to say this. The company we're invested in is World Wrestling Entertainment, and although, in a nutshell, this is what they said, although we appreciate the dividend payouts and the high dividend payouts, an investor always likes a positive return. But with our company, WWE, losing money over the last 2 years, we would like to see lower or they lean more towards lower, and listen to why. Now, this is true financial responsibility, and you'd think that Vince would be right on board with this, but I'll explain this in a minute. We would rather lower dividends each quarter and have the money be put back into the company to secure its growth for years to come. Because in reality, people, let's face it, with the way wrestling sways back and forth, and like Wade Keller said when The Rock debuted and he got that huge pop, wrestling has never been, or was never designed to be, every episode has to be a breathtaking, can't wait to see next week, can't wait to see the next match. Most of it's pretty mundane, and outside, like Keller commented, we were spoiled with the Attitude Era because it showcased two of the greatest wrestling talents, Stone Cold for his wrestling ability, Rock for his wrestling ability, but more for his mic ability and rallying the troops. But wrestling is not guaranteed to be every episode, oh, I just can't believe that, I can't wait till next week. Sometimes it's not meant to go like that. My argument is, even if it's a mundane placeholder week, so to speak, you need to build things that, and I hate to sound like we're babying them, but we have to, take baby steps in your storylines from time to time. That way, when you get to your pay-per-view and where your feud's supposed to conclude, you can have your big finish, and you don't have what we had a couple months ago with John Cena. John Cena joining the Nexus. John Cena in that one, if you recall, John Cena got beat. Fucking Matt Stryker said his stupid thing of John Cena won, and then Michael Cole had an excellent follow-up of John Cena is fired. And the match just ended. It ended with the last 10 minutes of him shaking hands with the fans, autographs, etc., etc., instead of concluding the process that you knew that the Nexus wanted, that the story demanded, that you knew was going to happen anyway. You have John Cena loses the match, says goodbye to the fans, the show goes off the air, and then the highlight to sell Monday Night Raw is, oh yeah, you just spent $50 on a pay-per-view, but we're going to have the conclusion to John Cena's loss right here tonight, in a nutshell, as he more or less, as he becomes the member of Nexus as promised with his loss at the pay-per-view last night. It was a video I made too. It was like saying, why'd you bother ordering the pay-per-view? The fallout of what you wanted to see was on free cable TV less than, alright, the pay-per-views usually end at 11, 12, less than 18, 20 hours later, give or take, I could be wrong on the math, 16 to 18 hours later, John Cena reads from I believe he read from a scroll or whatever, or no, that was before that. But John Cena formally has to sport the NXT tag and do everything Wade Barrett says. So they wanted shareholders want financial security. And Boris's answer said to that, WWE never speaks publicly about its dividend policy. But, direct quote here, but it is reviewed every quarter by the board of directors, and the next board of directors meeting will happen within the next few weeks, and this matter, along with others, are planned to be addressed. Now, maybe I'm not on the right channel. I know that the shareholder meeting is available to be listened to, but I'm going to have to dig around because I'd love to bring you coverage of this board of directors meeting because it makes sense. Why are you, don't get me wrong, I have investments too. And every time I look at them, I want to see that they're making money, or at least what I've invested in is at a standstill for the positive and the standstill is only short term and still gives it potential to grow. These guys are more or less saying your money's nice, you've got plenty of it, stop overpaying us and fix the gap that you've created. You can't blame anyone else. The shareholders and investors just give their money. It's Vince McMahon and this all-star team, and I hope you sense the sarcasm in that spend the money. So it's uncanny, but it makes sense. We do not want big paychecks. They can't say that they haven't made good money. Each shareholder and investment firm hasn't made good money, because they have. Because now they're in a position of saying, either lower the frequency, mainly, like I said, they want it lowered. That way the difference can go into stabilizing the product. And when you have, what was it? Royal Rumble, I believe. One of them, hold on, I wrote it on the back here. Royal Rumble 2010 received 450,000 buys, which is up slightly from last year's, but it also points out several things. And we'll get into that in the rant, and I'll make sure to make a note of it. Moving on, in regards to the TV network, he's quoted as saying, the network has the chance to grow the brand, noting that the company has over 30 million hours of content in its tape library. Now that's just the update on the television network. But really, a channel with wrestling all the time? I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but we'll see what happens with it, because it's always up in the air. Or it's ready and then it's not ready, it's pulled back and then it's delayed. In regards to WWE movies are in place as a product awareness tactic. Not his direct words, he more or less said to make people aware of the product, but you can word that any way you want. It's the same thing. He says it gives he says by casting the talent in the films, it gives its talent greater character and self-promotion when used when it uses stars in said movies rather than outsource the roles to big names. So in a nutshell, when they're going to do a movie and it's coming from WWE films, they'd rather push a wrestler than, I don't want to say pay because they have the money, but then rather than hype up a pre-existing movie star. So you want, I want to credit them there because they're giving a chance to wrestlers to have something else to fall back on if they're good enough at it. But as we know, some of them can't even cut a promo or act in the ring when they're supposed to. So, and say what you will about the John Cena movies, I have too, but I do see a point here. If you already have a talent full of guys, why pay a movie star or several movie stars to overshadow it? Now, co-stars, like you had with, I hate to reference it because everybody says it was a bad movie, but Cena, just the example itself I'm using, Cena as the star, so to speak, and then Danny Glover as a co-star / supporting, that makes sense. But these guys are already paying a large group of men with a roster that's already bloated. So you got to think in their minds, why go out of the house to get this done when we have more than enough manpower to do everything we do now, plus shoot a couple movies? Even though, to recap on the news from the day before yesterday, they're shooting a new film and it will star a former Will and Grace cast member, but as of right now has no WWE talent / wrestler / whatever adjective you want to use involved in it yet. Now, if they're sticking to that, that's fine. If they just haven't figured out what they want to do, then you can only hold your breath and hope for the best. And lastly, the current state of WWE films and studios, and I quote, "The plan of this area of business is to build it over time to generate in time double-digit returns." He goes on to say, "We haven't seen it yet, but the company believes eventually it will see those desired levels of returns." we'll see what happens. Produce another legendary or a chaperone, and I doubt it. But do something that is, I don't know, I'm not saying a horror flick, maybe another action movie, not like a Marine, but something. I see this overall as WWE Studios is their way of having something to play with. See what works and what doesn't. So, it's being worded as a work in progress. So if that's what it is, I know we will because it's human nature, but we can't judge just yet because it sounds like the outcome isn't even there yet. And in our segment, which will conclude the show, hopefully we're at 2 hours and 23 minutes. I'm hoping to conclude this at 2 hours and basically another 20 minutes or less. But the highlights of the segment are Snookie, the Snookie match, talent releases, overexposure of The Rock, and talent in general, and the recent comments from the CFO that I just got done reporting. Let's start off with the one that annoys me the most. Snookie. Now, what, might I ask, does Snookie bring to the wrestling table? Answer, in my opinion, unless you guys know something I don't, absolutely nothing. And I'm going to give you a hint into the video that I'm waiting on your votes to publish. She whores herself out on the Jersey Shore. It became a success because it's Jersey. Locally, people follow it for the drama. It fell into the category of every other reality show of you want to see what happens next, which is the nature of the beast. But Snookie and JWoww. And I mentioned JWoww because of her TNA run-in that made no sense at the time, and I made that clear of what they paid her. For that JWoww appearance or run, whatever, I didn't really watch it, didn't really care for it, so I don't know how long they actually ended up using her, or if it was just a one-time thing to try and capture the Jersey Shore audience and keep them there by saying, hey, even the people you love from Jersey Shore love TNA wrestling. So come and see what it's all about. And then you get there, and it's like being stuck at the grandmother's house that you love with all your heart, but have nothing to do, and you're bored out of your mind the whole time you're there, and you realize that JWoww being there once was the only reason you watched it. And Snookie in general, let me just defend myself here, because if I do wind up publishing this video, I don't want to look like an asshole. Even though if I do, it was fully intended, because of she just thinks that all this she was designed for. She is, in my opinion, and I am not a female, I'm not bashing on females, maybe it's all an act and I read into it wrong, but if it's an act, it's the wrong act to push towards the younger demographic that both companies and all the wrestling companies aim for. This includes ROH and everything else. You want your kid-friendly stuff. You want your hero John Cena, so the kids go out and buy the hustle, loyalty, respect, the never give up, the armbands, the ball bands, the John Cena socks that are invisible that say you can't see me. Just a joke there. I know it probably wasn't funny, but you guys have been hanging out long enough. So let's just get into the actual rant here. Like I said in the exclusive content video, is what we're dubbing it now. Snookie has no talent. Her talent on Jersey Shore, from what I've seen, the audio recaps that I've listened to, because believe it or not, this is not another plug, but Adam Carolla always has a field day with her. AdamCarolla.com. He does a daily Monday through Friday podcast. On certain days, you can watch him streaming live thanks to TriCaster. AOL has a late night in its late night section has gems and nuggets, which are excerpts from where you get to see little 2-minute bits live from his studio and all that happy stuff. But he makes a good point. This whole show is about bitching, complaining, fighting, physical fighting, one cast member threatening to kill another, and it's gotten, I don't know if it's simmered down now. If I were MTV, I would smarten up and realize what's entertaining and what you're just pushing negative ions together hoping for a positive, but all you're going to get is a negative blow up when one of your cast members says that they can see one cast member murdering the other just because of his actions on a show, even though Snookie is the one who brings it on herself. I forget the guy's name, but she pissed him off, degraded him verbally, harassed him, assaulted him on more than one occasion. And then he went in and just, as payback, as I always say, you can man or woman, but I use the expression man, but I mean both men and women. You can push a man so far before he pushes back, whether it be violence or unviolent retaliation. You're still going to get retaliation. The end result's the same. So WWE does the same thing. Everyone loves the Jersey Shore, so we're going to invite author and Jersey Shore cast member Snookie and see what it does for our ratings. And 2 weeks ago when I found out about this, I even mentioned it in the video, and I'm not trying to oversell myself. It's just a lot of stuff I already touched on. Is TNA gets 1.13s or less, and possibly higher 1.26s. They were at a time years ago where they got 4s and 5s just because they were different. Now they're too busy with trying to compete with number one instead of doing things that might make them number one. They just take ideas that have already been used, switch them up a bit, and then hope that when they broadcast them, the fans, this is what I mean by wrestling treating us like we're stupid and looking for the smart wrestling fans and the interactive wrestling fans, which is the slogan of ours. Wrestling fans that are active, interactive, in their wrestling. And this is just WWE doing the same thing. Snookie appears on Raw. The unfair thing, well, let me finish my first topic first. She writes a book about the Jersey Shore. And it's only her perspective about how this, that, and the other thing was wrong, and I haven't even read the book, but I think I can summarize it just from her attitude. This is a woman. Now let's remember the key demographic that I kept talking about, that we don't want to send a bad or misrepresented message to. This is a woman who went on Letterman or The Tonight Show knowing that she has a problem with alcohol. Now, whether or not you admit it is a personal choice. You, the person, not speaking to the audience, but in general, you, the person, have to make up your mind. Your entire family, all your friends, all your relatives, fuck, your cat could tell you you're an alcoholic. Same thing with drugs. And unless you see a problem, you're always going to find a way to dodge it. But we, the viewers, and we, the readers, and who read into the wrestling and Jersey Shore stuff and everything else, and blog and Twitter about everything we do, know that she does. She has some sort of dependency on alcohol, but there's nobody, and not to defend her, there's nobody that likes to admit it. When I admitted it to myself 2 years ago, it was an awakening. I had several bouts with what's called pancreatitis, where they told me my pancreas was shot because I was drinking at least a case a day. And they could help me, the hospitals could help me, and they always did. But they made it clear that if I kept it up, after a while, the pain medicine wouldn't work, and I would just be in a hospital bed, and then their primary goal would be to make me as comfortable as possible until the issue that I caused, my actions caused, killed me. And this is the same thing here. She goes on The Tonight Show, and when they address, or whatever late night show that was a month or two ago, maybe less, she went out of her way to dodge the questions and spin it off on who has a problem with her and where this all stemmed from. Even if that person does, that person had to build that assumption from somewhere. If you're an alcoholic or you overindulge, for those who don't think the word alcoholic works well, if you overindulge, then just as an overall suggestion, take a step back, and I always use this philosophy. Whatever you do in life, in your personal time, as long as as you're paying your bills, you're not killing yourself, this addiction of whatever source, and not to say that I condone it, because that would contradict everything I say about Jeff Hardy, but in moderation, as long as it does not spill over to where people can see it. Obviously it has with Snookie, because people note it, and that's why she was on the hot seat. And you go to work, you pay your bills. If you have children, you take care of them. You're a mother, and when they're not around, you have a few glasses of wine. When you want to let loose on Friday, you go out with the boys and have a couple of beers, but you're up and maybe you party or barbecue on the weekend, but you're up Monday morning ready to go with no problems, no need to have it, whatever the vice of choice is, before you start your obligations, then I say as long as it's in moderation and you're covering your nut, so to speak, and no one else has to do it for you, then fine. But don't sit there on a talk show. One, how you got on that talk show is beyond me. And it was, I think I just answered my own question. It was because she's the most outspoken and the one who attracts the most attention, because it appears that's what she needs. Attention. Then you write a book that screwed a real writer who could have gotten published by whoever decided to publish you. Don't be shocked. Somebody clue me in, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's an MTV affiliate, just to keep her happy. But don't dodge the question. Either say, I'd rather not talk about it on air, or I'll give you this much, but I won't go any further. Don't turn it around and try and blame someone else, because what that does 90% of the time, we're smart enough, what that does 90% of the time is further prove that everyone else sees you have a problem except for you, and you play the it's everyone else's fault. And then, and this is where we'll end the Snookie portion of the segment, you get, just from your appearance on Raw, you weasel your way in, like I said earlier in the video, weasel your way into a match of Snookie, Trish Stratus, and John Morrison versus Lay Cool and Ziggler, versus basically a 3-on-3, what I'm assuming will be a 3-on-3 tag, which, the same thing with the book, if you ask me, takes a real wrestler that they have in the back and says, not directly, but says, thanks for coming. She gets more ratings, so your wrestling ability doesn't matter. Snookie, the female drama queen, is going to get to wrestle over the pro wrestler who's been training and working for years. Pick a name, and I'm sure you could have found someone to replace it. I myself, even though, like I said, I don't cover TNA that much, would have taken Mickey James, Trish Stratus, and Morrison versus Lay Cool and Ziggler. And especially if it's going to happen at WrestleMania, which I don't buy, considering there's 2 more Raws, but anything's possible. And maybe they want it just so her match can also be rolled into a special guest appearance at the center stage of the WWE. But whatever it is, she's getting publicity for the wrong reason. She's not talented. She's known for her lewd behavior, her verbal abuse, her disrespect of people in general, and what I'll limit as, without going on a bigger rant and giving away the bonus content, a whore-like mentality. The talent release, let me just say, I said it in the rant, so I can't really go any further. But these 3, once they get their shit together or whatever, release them from TNA. My recommendation, try your independence. Your independence will grow you, use you, utilize you, but use you in a good way. Utilize and use. Use you to benefit them, but utilize your talent. And I think you stand a better showcase. But hey, if your goal is to either A, get back in TNA or shoot for WWE, go for it. Wish you best of luck. But TNA, they did have a bloated roster, and we cite it because it's filled with overpaid legends, and it doesn't really do much to help that issue. But out of the 3 people you could have released, these are who you release. Pardon the fire truck in the back. Out of the 3 you could release, these are who you release. I mean, really. You can't stand there and say your options were limited. Your hands were tied. And finally, overexposure of The Rock. If he's going to be there, he's going to be there. We all said it would kind of kill the WrestleMania hype, and I think that's why they're not doing the in-person stuff. But like I said earlier, it's going to get to a point where you're going to see Rock on the screen, and the fans aren't going to care like they used to. Like when he first came out and gave that killer promo, and then the second one was phoned in, that was fine. But if this is what you're going to do all the way up to WrestleMania, then you leave nothing for the imagination. It's like a woman walking up to you, and before you can ask her to take her dress off, she shows you everything. There's nothing left to the imagination, and there's no point in, even though it'll still sell, because it's The Rock, but there's no point in making it sound like WrestleMania is going to be the boiling point when every week he comes out and responds to something. And for Christ's sake, again and finally to conclude the show, make a bigger deal about The Miz. I told you in the last video, guys, I'm deathly afraid that when they said in the conference call in the beginning of February, we'll see the youth initiative at WrestleMania, that they either A, only meant Miz in comparison to where he was a year ago, or between the dark matches and the fillers, you're just going to get a bunch of new guys that starting that Monday, by the way, The Rock's scheduled to appear the Monday after WrestleMania, but nowadays, who knows if it'll be a physical appearance or via satellite. But do not just, you've had years to do this, and it would be a slap in the face to these new guys more, and put egg on your face if you say in February you'll notice the youth initiative at WrestleMania, spend no time really working on it except fine-tuning The Miz for his WrestleMania match, which he has to scrape to even get accomplished, and then wind up in between Divas matches and matches that concern you, seeing a bunch of one-on-ones of guys you don't know because they spent 3 weeks essentially doing nothing, when while promoting everything else for the last month, they could have factored in some new blood. That way, come WrestleMania, come WrestleMania, you would have The Miz and 2 other competitors or 3 other newcomers looking to make a name for themselves. Just a thought. sorry for almost a 3-hour show. Well, 2 hours, 47 minutes. We hope you enjoyed this. We'll find out. Again, visit our video site at youtube.com/CWE Company. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and like the videos, any of them. It lets me know what we're doing. Comments give me something to work with and new information to build shows around. And especially now, it'll be referred to as the Jersey Shore clip. I said new content, but we'll call it the Jersey Shore bit exclusive content. Make sure to vote on that any way possible. Either the comment page right under every video on our YouTube channel, or friend us on Facebook and Twitter at CWE Company. I'll pose the question, or if I haven't already, just respond to it on my wall or a direct Facebook email. Visit WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. Visit the forum. Place your vote there. Post your comments about Jersey Shore, wrestling in general, the direction of wrestling, primarily in regards to casting your vote on the exclusive content. Give me like a 1-sentence why or why not, because it'll build for the next show / follow-up on the exclusive content. Make sure to visit the site. PayPal link. Donate as little or as much as you want. Refer a friend if you can't do that. Tell a friend about us if you like what you see, along with other videos. Like I said, the next best thing to monetary value is viewership, audience gain, which is just as valuable. And again, your viewership, your support is greatly appreciated. There was a lot to discuss, a lot to rant. I want to forewarn you, I don't always think you'll get damn near a 3-hour video, but I'd like to think everything was relevant. We went on our rants and explanations as we recapped everything. If you're interested in wrestling, visit www.freewebs.com/CWE Company to view the Pennsylvania-based Continental Wrestling Entertainment. And until next time, we'll have your fresh wrestling news as it happens. Possibly another video tomorrow. Possibly we'll stick with our every 3-day rule. That way we can give you videos like this, but it won't be just filler, even though this one wasn't. It was all news. But we got like I said, we did our rants and comments as we gave them to you. But thank you as always, guys. It's always fun. Have a great day. Get some sleep, I would suggest, because it's kind of late. And until next time, guys, have a great night.